A man throws a woman into a distillery in order to make perfume. He scrapes the oils from the woman's body and collects them all. He then refines the oils a little to get the perfume that is so refreshing. He flips his handkerchief to disperse the smell of perfume. The crowd on stage fell to their knees. The perfume maker is called Grenouille. Welcome back to Storysensei. Today I will tell you a story called Perfume, the story of a murderer. Years ago, in a dirty fish market, a vendor woman suddenly felt a fetal movement. By the time she got up again, she had finished giving birth. This was the 5th child she had given birth to. The newborn baby was thrown into the pile of dead fish, just like before. Surprisingly this time, the baby came back to life with a cry. The baby was found by his mother, who tried to escape, was soon sent to another hell. Grenouille was adopted by a local orphanage. As he grew older, Grenouille showed an unusual talent. He could tell when a branch was dry or wet by the smell of his nose. He could even smell how many maggots were inside a dead mouse. By the time he was 13 years old, the director took him to the tannery and sold him to the owner for 7 francs. He was killed halfway home, and Grenouille began his life of hard labor. The leather factory was open all year. He had to work 16 hours a day. He was not paid a penny. A normal person would have died of exhaustion, but Grenouille persevered and was appreciated by his boss. One day, the boss took him to town to make a delivery. Grenouille sniffed voraciously at the scents around him. He looked for the smell and came to the perfume store. It was a scent he had never smelled before. He stood outside the store until late in the evening, until an even more enchanting scent arrived. Grenouille ran like mad in that direction. It was a young girl selling fruit. He followed her and smelled her. Anna turned around and was startled by him. Frightened, Anna ran home. Grenouille also ran after her. He came up behind Anna again. Anna screams at his fright. Grenouille was afraid of not being discovered, so he covered Anna's mouth. But he accidentally covered Anna to death. Now Grenouille is anxious. But it wasn't Anna's death that made him anxious. He was worried that Anna's smell was dissipating. Since then, he has had one more goal in life, and that was to find a way to preserve that beautiful scent. Until the day he delivered leather to the perfume store. The perfume store was not doing well, and no one was coming to it. The owner was so worried that he couldn't even eat every day. Grenouille saw right away what the owner was thinking. He told the owner that he could replicate the smell of the owner's perfume. He then grabbed the materials around him and started working on them. In no time, a bottle of perfume was born in this world. The boss picked up the perfume and smelled it. He instantly felt like he was back to his first love. In order to keep Grenouille with him, the boss paid 50 francs to redeem Grenouille. After receiving the money, the tannery owner got very drunk. Then he was hit by a passing carriage and died in the water. With Grenouille and the perfume store, business is booming. But Grenouille wasn't interested in money. He just wanted to learn how to preserve the scent. The owner told him that all he had to do was put the plants in a distiller. They would be distilled to produce essential oils. Grenouille then followed the owner's method and threw a dead cat into the still to process it. As a result, his product tasted like water. The owner was angry that Grenouille couldn't distill the taste of the cat, just like Grenouille couldn't distill his flavor. The words hit Grenouille like a bolt from the blue. The next second, he collapsed on the floor. The next day, Grenouille was very sick. Even the doctors said there was no cure for him. This man was so sick that he was still thinking about the smell of women. The boss told him to keep smelling women. He was cured of his terminal illness immediately. The boss told him that there was an ancient town where there was a kind of oil dissociation method. It can preserve all the flavors. Grenouille left hundreds of perfume recipes for the boss in order to go to the old town. The boss was so happy to get the recipes. He sleeps with a smile on his face, but he did not open his eyes for the rest of his life. I suspect that Grenouille is some kind of disaster. People who knew him well seemed to end up in a bad way. Grenouille also arrived in the old town. At this time, Grenouille had also arrived in the town and was learning the art of perfumery in the town. He took his work more seriously than anyone else. Soon, he was appreciated by the owner of the perfume house, and he learns, as he had hoped, how to dissociate oils. Once Grenouille had mastered the technique, he needed to find someone to practice it with. This night, a man and woman are playing on the lawn. The woman climbs up to the attic in a seductive pose. The man tries to climb up with her, but the next moment, the woman pushes down the stairs. The man has really lost interest now. He then gets up and leaves the place. The woman was anxious about the lack of stairs to go down. As a result, the stairs were on the roof the next second. But this time, it was Grenouille who came up to the roof. He put the woman in the distillation vessel to refine, but the experiment was not successful. Then he improved the refining method and found a woman again. He wrapped the gauze covered with animal oil around the woman. When the animal oil had absorbed the fragrance of the women, he scraped them off. Even the woman's hair was not wasted. He took the collected animal oil and distilled it. The gas from the distillation was condensed and then finally extracted into a drop of essential oil. Grenouille brought the oil slowly to his nose and smelled that this was the smell he liked. But he was not satisfied. Grenouille then took out 13 more empty bottles. Grenouille decided to fill all 13 empty bottles. He wrapped the animal oil around the women's bodies. After the animal oil absorbed the woman's scent, he scraped it off with a tool. Even the scent of the woman's hair was collected by him. Grenouille finally took the scraped oil and distilled it. In a short time, the essential oil full of women's scent appeared. The man brutally murdered 13 women in order to create the perfect perfume. As Grenouille collected more and more essential oils, the town was also in a state of panic. No family wanted their women to be the next victims. People took up arms to find this killer. But the panic inside them made them lose their judgment. Anyone suspicious was shot down as the killer. But the real killer, Grenouille, was still out there. This day, he targets the nuns of the church. This time, he refines the oil and fills the bottle again. Now he is just one bottle away from making the perfect perfume. And who would be the last woman to refine the oil? Grenouille already had someone in mind. She is the Count's beautiful daughter, Laura. The Count also realized that Laura's situation was very dangerous. Early that morning, he took Laura and left the town. But Grenouille smelled their distant scent. Then he followed them outside the town. His keen sense of smell traveled over the mountains and caught the scent of Laura, dressed as a man, 100 miles away. Grenouille searched in the direction of the scent. Eventually, he found the inn where Laura had landed. He covered the gauze with animal fat, as he always did. Then he walks over to Laura's bed. He was about to kill her. Laura rolls over. Grenouille pauses for 2.33 seconds. But her beauty doesn't stop him from making perfume. He blends the refined oil with the previous one. The perfume, full of life, was complete. But then the soldiers arrived and surrounded him. Meanwhile, the incriminating evidence buried in Grenouille's house has been found. Grenouille will be sentenced to 12 sticks. His joints will be shattered one by one under the heavy sticks. They then crucified Grenouille and left him to die of pain. The crowd gave an ear-splitting cheer at the verdict. On the day of the execution, Grenouille had left no trace of nervousness on his face. He simply unscrewed the cap of the perfume. The soldiers escorting him were momentarily stunned. Grenouille then changed into the soldier's blue dress and gently rubbed the perfume on his neck. Grenouille slowly arrived at the execution site. In the carriage that was transporting him, Grenouille mounted the execution table in front of the crowd. But then the executioner fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted that Grenouille was innocent. Grenouille poured the perfume on his handkerchief. Then he waved the handkerchief in the air. The people on the stage instantly fell to their knees. Then they began to kiss the people around them. This is the magic of the most powerful perfume. Surprisingly, Grenouille didn't do anything bad with the perfume. He returned to the fish market where he was born. Grenouille poured the perfume all over his body. The people around him flocked to him when they smelled the scent. When the crowd cleared, Grenouille had been eaten up by others. Grenouille has spent his life collecting scents. He did it only to get attention and love from others. It turned out that people were just obsessed with his scent. He looked back and realized that he had buried 13 innocent lives in the process of collecting scents. If you enjoy listening to stories and like this one, please consider subscribing. See you again with another story.